that's the way you do it. You play the guitar on the MTV. That ain't working, that's the way you do it. Money for nothing and your chicks for free. Now that ain't working, that's the way you do it. Let me tell you, damn guys ain't dumb. Maybe get a pistol on your little finger.
Hello. Oh, I'm not muted. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. We've got people still joining in. Thank you so much for hanging out as we kind of join. I want to get the comment section going, the chat section going. So if you could do me a huge favor, please put in the chat where you're calling from. Love to hear where people are calling from. So put in the chat where you're calling from, and we will get rolling shortly as people kind of join. So tell me where you live. Please don't put your street address. Just tell me the city or the area where you live. Well, love to know. Where do you live? Where do you come from? Got James from NYC. All right. Charlotte. Okay, you're not too far from me. I live in Raleigh. Glendale, Long Island, New York, and Florida. Wait, explain that one to me, Donna. Like at the same time, or is this like a Donald Trump situation where you got a hotel in one and a hotel in the other, and you go back and forth? Like, tell me, like New York and Florida. Are you a snowbird? Like, where do you live? All right. We've got Durham. Hey, not far from me, Deborah. I'm in Raleigh. See, Maine, Chicago, Kentucky, heart of the Bourbon Trail. Awesome. Los Angeles, San Diego, land of the perfect weather. Good for you, Matthew. And good food, too. I love food in San Diego. New Jersey. I see Los Angeles. Destin, Florida. All right. Love me some Destin. Lansing, Michigan. Awesome. Conway. Wow, we actually have a pretty diverse group here. This is fun. All right, anybody else? Where are you guys calling in from? Or I guess where do you live? Not you could be away and calling in from somewhere else, but Denver, where do you live? Let me know in the chat. Let's activate it. Let's get it going. I'm going to start in about another minute, guys. We'll give it another minute while people are joining in. And then we'll kick things off. San Francisco, New Hampshire. Wow, we are going West Coast to East Coast. This is awesome. I love it. I love seeing the diversity of locations. It sounds like a lot of you guys are, I can kind of pick out by the locations what would motivate you to join this call. So don't worry, you're here, you're in good hands. I'm gonna help you guys out. I'm actually gonna give you guys some examples. I'm gonna do some stuff I haven't done in a while. And that is actually share some potential deals with you guys too. So, hey, maybe you walk away with a deal that you can go and you're potentially interested in. But at the very least, you'll walk away with some new markets you may or may not have heard of and why they're really good. But more importantly, not just markets, how to actually find deals in other markets too. So I want to give you my blueprint, my framework, whatever you want to call it, of how I personally find really good cash flowing short-term rental properties around the country. And I've got another 10 seconds before I'm going to kick things off. Donna says, actually, I'm in New Jersey, New York, kind of the same, unless you're in upstate New York, then that's a completely different monster. And Laura is in Raleigh. What part of Raleigh, Laura? I'm south of Garner, near Fuquay. We got Nashville and Miami. Oh, Miami. All right. San Antonio, San Francisco, New Hampshire. Okay, cool. Well, welcome everybody. So let's go and get started. I'm going to put this question down. First off, actually, let's take a quick poll in the chat. We've already activated it. Let me know, like, I don't know, you can raise your hand, you can say yes or me or whatever. Are you trying to do a cost seg this year? Are you trying to find a property for bonus depreciation and take advantage through doing a cost segregation study before the end of the year? Let me know in the chat, yes or no. It's okay if it's no. I'm not going to get my feelings hurt one way or the other. I just like to poll my audience and cater the content towards that. So let me know in the chat. Are you trying to do a cost segregation study this year and do not have a property? Like, you are looking for a property to buy, and this year, close on it this year, get your 2 bookings, get it into service, get your 100 hours of material participation, and do a cost segregation study to save on taxes. And if you don't even know what that is, you can also say, I don't know what the heck you're talking about, or I don't know what that is. Love to hear that too. I've got a 1031, currently doing one, would love to, no, already had one this year. Awesome, good for you guys. I see some yeses and some nos. It's a healthy mix. Okay, all right, no, all right. I don't know, okay. James, you don't know yet, or you don't know what it is? Let me know. I'll love to at least point you in the right direction. No on the cost seg. Okay. All right. Yes, no, maybe so. Getting a lot of everything in between. Okay. I guess that's what I should expect. Interesting. Okay. So we've got a healthy mix here, and that's totally fine. All right. One of the things is 100% bonus depreciation, Brent, in 2025. So Brent's like, what? I guess that's with all the question marks. What? So yes, there was 100% bonus depreciation in 2025 if you bought something after January 19th of this year. And it obviously applies in 2026 as well. And really, we don't have an expiration date on the bonus depreciation yet. We assume 2029 due to maybe some changes. It depends on the next presidency. So there is no expiration date as of right now for the bonus depreciation. So it's 100% if you bought something after January 29th of this year. Don't ask, I don't know why January, or not January 29th, 19th, excuse me. January 19th of this year. Okay, got a cost seg last year, doing another one this year. Awesome. Next year. Okay, maybe if the deal line's not sure yet. Awesome. Okay. And Jody said you don't know what a cost segregation study is. That's okay. We're going to mention it a few times on here. And you'll at least walk away understanding hopefully what it is by the end of this presentation. Number one, I'm not a CPA. So if anyone has any tax questions, I can point you in the right direction. I can give you a bystander's advice, but not a CPA's advice. So I can hold my own, but not enough to be a CPA level because I'm not a CPA, but I know enough for doing this from enough. Okay. Let's jump into it. I'm really going to be focusing on finding deals, okay? My goal is to help you find and teach you where to look for cash flowing short-term rentals before the year end. Now, look, I put the year end because I'd probably say about 50% of you are looking to buy something before the end of the year. And that's what I kind of figured. But most of you aren't in a rush. So can you still apply the things that I'm going to teach you to find something in the next 6 months? Absolutely. Can you still look in the markets I'm going to show you that to find a deal and find something in the next 6 months or year? Absolutely. So the strategies and everything I'm going to teach you is applicable not just for the next, before the end of the year, but also for, the next 6 months and possibly year as well. Keep in mind, markets do shift. Okay. And I've seen markets really hot and then go really south and then get better again. And that's a really cool thing about the short-term rental industry is that although the market shifts, it doesn't just go negative and stay negative. It can go back to positive. And that's the beauty of real estate as well. So keep that in mind as we're exploring some of the markets. And due to the number of people, I think we can actually have a little bit of conversation here too and kind of take questions throughout. So if you have a question, feel free to throw it in the chat. I'll throw it up on the main screen and try to answer it as we're going along. If you don't see me answer it right away, I'm probably waiting till a certain point in time to answer any of those questions. So let's go ahead and dive into the actual presentation and get into the examples I want to break down with you guys. Okay, so first off, for those of you who maybe this is your first workshop or webinar, whatever you want to call it, with me personally, who am I and what do I do? My name is Kenny Bedwell. I'm the founder and CEO of STR Insights. We help people find profitable short-term rental deals around the country. I'm going to mention that a little bit later and show you more in detail what that means. So I'll dive into it. But here's something really, really cool. And, I want you to clap for me at your computer or your phone. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. My podcast, Cash Flow Positive, I have a really good I'm biased, right? So I have a podcast called Cash Flow Positive, and it's in the top 30 in the United States on iTunes of top entrepreneur, the top entrepreneur category in iTunes, and top 85 in US business podcasts. And it ranked two podcasts higher than one of Dave Ramsey's new podcasts. So I feel pretty good about that. Now, I don't know how long it'll stay that way, but I took a screenshot to remember that. So I have a really cool podcast, and I would love for you guys to check it out. We cover all different types of things with short-term rentals, but it's really focused on deal finding and markets and how to be smart about your short-term rentals, basically have them cash flow positive. I'm very, very data focused. And so my background, I used to work at Citibank, have a heavy background in data science. Obviously, STR Insights has a data tool as well. And so you're going to hear a lot of data and insights, especially on this presentation today, that's going to help you be able to apply what you're looking for, and not just like, hey, take my word for it, but it's like, look at the data and then take action. And this is how you take action. Finally, if you could all do me a huge favor and give me a follow on social media. If you are on social media, like Instagram, my handle is @Kenny_Bedwell. I really appreciate it. It'd mean the world to me if you could give me a follow there. I put out some really good content and information, just shorter clips and things. And for those of you so you get on Instagram a lot or Facebook, be sure to follow me @Kenny_Bedwell. Would really love that follow. Okay. Finally, just homework and to continue on the conversation from what you've learned here today. I strongly encourage you guys to go to the STR Insights YouTube channel, just @STR Insights. And there's some really good content and videos that I post there all about finding markets. In fact, I have a whole video. It's got like 12,000 views on like top markets for 2025, top 10 markets not to invest in 2025, and how to evaluate deals and how to find your own markets, all this good stuff. It's on the YouTube channel. It's free. Go check it out. It's @STR Insights. Cool. Let's get into it. So, we're going to start from the top down. Okay. When it comes to finding deals, we need to know where to look for deals. Okay. So looking for deals starts with knowing the markets. Who wants to take a guess on how many, and I don't actually know the exact number, so whoever's close enough, you'll get brownie points. Throw a guess in the chat. How many markets do you think there are, vacation markets, US vacation markets on Airbnb are there in the United States? Only the United States. Take a guess. How many markets do you think there are on Airbnb in the United States? Put your guess in the chat. I want to see what you guys think. How many markets are there in, okay, some people follow me, but keep going. Anybody else? Any other guesses? Nice one, Jake. This is definitely not your first workshop. All right. I'm not seeing anyone else guess. So I'm assuming that everyone's just like, okay, Jake's answer. And I kind of gave that away. There were over 12,000 vacation markets in the United States. 12,000. Okay. That's a lot. Now, if you want to break it down further, how many of those, here's a fun one, Jake. You gotta be an OG follower of Kenny to know this one. How many of those are considered large vacation markets? Now, large vacation markets for me, how Kenny defines them, is over 500 Airbnbs or more. How many of the 12,000 are considered large vacation rental markets? 10K. 10K are large vacation markets. Any other guesses? No other guesses. All right, Rick, you're the closest. Okay, 250. That is much closer. So we got 5K, 250, 8,500. So the correct answer, for those of you who are, I'm trying to get you involved a little bit. It's more fun that way. So the correct answer is there are 586 technical large markets. Now that number, it was a couple months ago when I looked that up, so it could be closer to 600. Could be it's probably closer to 600 now, but we'll call it 600. Okay, 600 large quote unquote vacation markets, meaning they have 500 short-term rentals or more in that market. Okay, only 600 out of the 12,000. So there really aren't that many large vacation rental markets. Well, then we have large, then we have medium, and we have small. So medium would be between 100 short-term rentals and 500 short-term rentals. I'm not going to make you guess, okay, because it just kind of drags on. So the medium number is actually about 2,300. All right, so we have 600, 2,300. That was what? 3,000. So what? 9,000 left. So 9,000 markets out of the 12,000 are like tiny, tiny markets with less than 100 short-term rentals in them. Okay, but they're still classified as vacation markets because there's short-term rentals in them, and people can quote unquote vacation there. Your definition of vacation there versus what the general definition is can vary, and I understand that. But the reality is there's a ton of places to look, but we don't want to look everywhere, right? Like 12,000 markets is a lot of information. I don't know all 12,000 markets. I have data on all 12,000. It's a little over 12,000, but I have data on those. But that doesn't mean I'm looking at all 12,000. Okay. So with that being said, what do I look for? What are the attributes of highly successful markets where I can find deals? One of the things that I'll add this to is when I'm trying to find deals, someone asks me, okay, well, what do you think of this market? Like let's look at extremes. Let's take like Orlando or Kissimmee, Florida, right? We know that that's the number one quote unquote saturated market in the United States. The one of the markets where you'll spend the most money to get the least amount of return because it's so competitive, right? You've seen all the properties themed out and all the things you have to do. Okay. That market, I would not recommend anyone go to for an investment purpose. Now, if there's some sort of lifestyle draw, you want your family vacations there, they just want a place there. You don't care if it doesn't even break even, which I don't understand who would want that, but okay. Then sure, go buy there. But it has nothing to do with what we're talking about. We're talking about cash flowing properties, cash flowing markets. But is it possible, theoretically, to find a deal there? Yes. If somebody was in a dire circumstance and they were selling their property at a huge loss and they're just trying to get rid of it, and it was like, listed for $1 and you took it, it would probably be a deal, right? Like that's obvious. However, what's the chance or what's the probability? I like that term probability. What's the probability that you'll actually find a deal there or find a property like that in that market? Pretty slim to none, right? Doesn't mean it's zero, but it doesn't mean it's 100% either. It's probably like 1% or something around there. So my point is that you can technically find deals in any market, but it's more about the probability of finding deals. And that probability is better in certain markets than in other markets. And so although I'm going to share markets with you that I think are really good, okay, there are tons of other markets out there that could be okay. And if I pick on them a little bit, which I will pick on a few markets, that doesn't mean they're bad markets. Okay. It just means that they might be more competitive, or they might be the revenue, or just finding opportunities are harder, or the housing prices are too high, or whatever that is. So understand that it's more about probability. Where's my highest probability of finding a deal to minimize the amount of time I have to spend looking for a property? Because the reason why all of you are on here is to be able to find deals faster. If you could easily do it, you probably wouldn't be on this call. Just going to tell you straight up. Okay. Like I get it. And that's why I train people on this idea, is that it's look for markets where you have to spend less time looking for deals and more time focusing on what you're going to do with the property and the great deal that you found, right? That's the ideal situation. So let's put all that together and actually find good markets. So here's what I look for first. Okay. Drivable. Number one, the best markets, the top markets, the markets where I see the most deals, and that's kind of what I'm defining as top markets, is markets where I see the most deals. They're drivable. Okay. They're not, they might have a small airport or an airport slightly nearby, but most of the top markets are going to be drivable. Okay. What's the difference between a fly-in market and a drive-in market? A fly-in market, Nashville, Tennessee, Miami, Florida, Scottsdale, Arizona, or Phoenix, Scottsdale, kind of same thing. San Diego. Okay. Big cities, right? Big cities, big areas where people fly into, and boom, they're there. Okay. They might rent a car, but you don't have to rent a car. Okay, to enjoy that market. Okay, drive-in markets. Sedona. Okay, I'm gonna give out certain market. We'll come back. I'm already spitting out markets I'm gonna draw. Hint. Let me think of other markets. The Smokies. Destin, Florida. That's a drive-in market technically. You could fly into Fort Walton, but you still got to drive. That's a beach market. You could say Myrtle Beach. You could say, let me go around the country here. Southern Utah. So like any of the national parks in Utah, California, all the West Coast. Those are all going to be drive-in, drivable markets. Okay. Now I'm going to go through a list of other drive-in markets, and I'm going to teach you how to find drive-in markets, but these are just like extreme examples to help you be able to go like, oh yeah. So like Big Bear, Joshua Tree. Yep. These are all like, usually a lot of your ski resorts are going to be drive-in markets. Okay. Now, does it make every single drive-in market really good? No. Remember, it's probability. Some are going to be better than others. But drive-in markets, historically overall, are less impacted by fluctuations in the economy. And regardless of the political spectrum you're on, there are fluctuations going on in the economy. Okay. Drive-in markets tend to be overall, keep that in mind. And obviously, depending on the country and the side and all the other factors, tend to be more affordable than fly-in markets because they're drive-in markets, right? When you drive somewhere, it's cheaper than flying somewhere, unless you're driving all the way around the planet. That's a different story. Like realistically, focusing on the United States, it's cheaper for drive-in markets, okay, than fly-in markets. So when we see dips in the economy, fly-in markets get hit first. Whereas when we see increases in the economy, fly-in markets benefit from that and they see bigger jumps. Right now, we're seeing a dip. Fly-in markets are seeing a bigger dip than the drive-in markets. So number one, focus on drive-in markets. Number two, I look for drive-in markets that are within 3 to 4 hours of a major city. And I prefer 2 major cities, okay? Why would I do that? Because typically those drive-in markets are being fed by people who live nearby. Everybody knows. So people are from New York. We have Florida. We have every single coast and angle. I didn't see any Hawaii or Alaska, unfortunately, but those are different. California, those in California, those in New York, those in Florida. You guys all have not a fly-in spot, but you got a drive-in spot somewhere. I used to live in Buffalo, New York. About 5 months ago, we moved down to Raleigh, and I'll talk about Raleigh too. Like, so in Buffalo, New York, we had like the Finger Lakes area. We had upstate New York with the Adirondacks. We had even down in Pennsylvania. Who's ever heard of Allegheny State Park? Who's ever heard of Erie, Pennsylvania? Like a lot of these places I'm naming, like most of you who are not familiar with upstate New York or Western New York, for those of you who are from that area, it's called Western New York, not upstate. But anyway, Western New York, you don't know those areas, but that's where everybody from Buffalo and Rochester goes down to on vacation in the summertime or potentially the wintertime as well. And those are drive-in markets, okay? In whatever part of the country you're in, if you're in California, you know, especially like Southern California, you know, it's a little bit more obvious. There's a lot more people that talk about it more. But we've got Joshua Tree, we have 29 Palms, and we have all these other areas, Escondido, and the beach markets and all these different markets, probably markets that people don't even know about who live on the East Coast that are right in your own backyard that are quote unquote drivable. Okay, those are really good places to start with. And so, but your city feeds into those. And a lot of those markets don't get talked about on social media because they're not popular nationwide. I'm not saying people don't come from all over to go to those places. Just overall, it's more of a local kind of thing. And everybody knows those places. If you find those, they're all around the country. Every major city has them. And you just need to figure out what they are. I'm telling you, you will find pockets all over the place. And it's really, really cool to find. Right now, I live in Raleigh. Where do people in Raleigh go? Well, we have the mountains. We have Asheville, North Carolina, which most of you have heard of that. We have the high country, which is our skiing area. So we have Boone, Banner Elk. Some of you have maybe heard of that. And then we have the coast. We have the Outer Banks, and we have most people in Raleigh go down to Wilmington or Carolina Beach. Those are our beach markets, not Myrtle Beach, not Florida. We can go to Florida, but that's a flight now. So drive-in markets are fed by major cities. That's what we're looking for. Number 3, other traffic drivers. Okay. Now, you don't just want to be in a market that people drive to for camping. Okay. You want to go to a market where people drive to for some sort of traffic driver, whether that be water, whether that be mountain views, whether that be something they can enjoy, a theme park, amusement park, college. There's all different types of traffic drivers that we can list out here. But it needs to be a state park, national park. I love state parks and national parks, guys. These are all good places to start with, and they're all drivable from major cities for the most part. All great things to look for and what we would consider traffic drivers. Don't buy something in the middle of nowhere is what I'm saying. Okay. Number 4, properties with revenue. Okay. You've probably thought by now, hopefully you're at this point where you're like, I'm thinking of markets that are maybe near me or I've heard of or whatever that are drivable from a city that have traffic drivers. Awesome. But the next thing you have to do is you have to look at the data. You have to see revenue potential. It's one thing to lock in on a market and get, I call it married to the market, but emotionally attached to a market that doesn't make any money at all versus markets that there are properties actually generating the revenue that you want to generate. Okay, we all have goals and we all want properties to cash flow. Hopefully that's why you're here. But we want those properties to cash flow a certain amount. And in some markets, especially smaller markets or medium-sized markets, That might not be possible. Okay. Let me give you an example. Let's say I wanted a property to make me net at least $100,000. That's a lot of money net. Okay. Not gross 100,000. In order for me to net 100K, the property probably needs to make at least 200 or more in gross income. That's a pretty tall order in most markets. Okay. So there needs to be a lot of people that come to that area, and it needs to be probably a pretty cool property. So I might not have a problem finding cool properties, but it might be a problem with just the area in general. And so what I need to do is go in and look in markets. And let me actually just show you guys this. I'm going to do some ad hoc stuff here. Actually, no, I'm going to come back to this. Let's just go STR Insights. So I'm in STR Insights. This is my data tool, okay, that I use. But you can do this in any tool, any software, Price Labs, AirDNA, Rabu. I really don't care. But what you do is you go to we have a thing called market profile. I'm going to cherry pick a market. Let's say I am interested in, I look at, let's use my Buffalo example. Remember I mentioned the town Erie, Pennsylvania, okay? A lot of people go to Erie, PA. Well, if I have a goal to net 100K or essentially gross $200,000 or more, okay, I'm going to put in Erie, Pennsylvania, and I'm going to look at the Airbnbs in that market and ask the question, okay, cool. I like this market, but are there any properties in this market that are grossing $200,000 or more? Okay, so I'm going to increase. So this is a revenue percentile slider to show me the top performing properties in this market. And I'm going to highlight over these blue dots, and I'm just going to go ahead and move it to 95. And I'm going to look and see, are there any blue dots here doing over $200,000? Okay. I mean, I'm not going to click through every single property. But the answer, like these are obviously waterfront ones. The answer is no, there's none. Okay. Now, okay. That means that although this is probably a good vacation market, it's just not an investable market for me. So revenue is really, really important when we're trying to find and figure out if a market is what we're going to coin as viable. And I'm going to show you some more viable things we're going to look for. But really what we're trying to understand is, do properties actually make money there, right? And if they do, great. I need to go and study more about this market. If they don't, that market's not going to work. It's off the table. Okay, finally, last point. I guess the fifth point, E, resources. How many resources are there? What are resources? Cleaners, contractors, handyman, things you need to run a successful short-term rental. How many people here, let's kind of throw in the chat, how many people here are looking for their first property? You can say yay or nay. I don't care. Yay or nay. Looking for your first property. Let me know. So while we're reading those chat, like just put it in the chat, yay or nay. People like in any market, especially going somewhere new, your resources are make or break for your operations. We're not going to be able to handle, most of us at least, are not going to be able to handle if the pipes break or burst, if our house catches on fire. Like, we're going to panic, but there's not a whole lot we can do in the moment, right? And most of us are going to be hours and hours away. Maybe we're drivable, but we're probably going to be like, have to fly somewhere, then drive to that Airbnb. So the reality is our local teams and resources are crucial to making a smart investment. And so what I say with the local resources are, if there aren't cleaners and if it's not easy to find them, it's probably not a good market. So what is easy to find me? Go on Google. If you can't find a cleaner in 10 minutes, and it doesn't mean you hire that cleaner, but you know what I mean? Like, just how easy is it to find a cleaner? If you can't go find a cleaner on Turno, or it's a cleaner cleaning app for short-term rentals. If you can't find a cleaner in 10 minutes or less, it's going to be a tough time finding good cleaners. Okay. Just from experience, you don't want to have to fire your cleaner, and then the only other cleaner available is her sister in the area. That's going to be a tough one. So be smart about the local resources. Don't go in the middle of nowhere because it checks all these other boxes. Make sure that you have a good local team or teams available. Now you can reach out to other hosts. There's Facebook groups. I know people like all these different markets. There's plenty of resources in a lot of different markets, but not every market has the same resources. Okay. So be mindful of that last point. Another one I don't have on here yet, and actually it's going to be another slide. It's regulation, something to keep in mind as we go through it, but it's also a big piece of this as well. Okay. Now I do want to kind of put a little mid-roll bit about what I do, because it's going to tie into this whole like idea of buying something before the end of the year. So guys, first off, actually, we got a question. Let me answer the question and I'll go into this. So do you define a goal of revenue required? I do. What are those dependencies? So TL, I do define, so normally, it's a good call out. Normally I actually talk about defining your goals before you even talk about your budget and your revenue and all this other stuff. But I didn't, just for the sake of time in this presentation, but that is a big piece of it. So yes, before I even start looking for properties and markets, I do determine what my goals are. Okay. If my budget is, my purchase price budget, if I'm going to buy something at 500,000, okay, what should I be targeting in terms of returns at minimum? Obviously, we want the maximum amount of returns possible, but we need to have a minimum so that when we look at a pro forma or a calculator, we know that that property makes sense financially. So for me, it really comes down to what are your goals with the property and why are you buying the property? Are you buying it strictly for cash flow? Are you buying it for some tax savings and cash flow? Are you buying it for appreciation, tax savings, and cash flow? Like what are you looking for when you are actually trying to evaluate and understand if a deal is a deal? It's all independent, and it's not just strictly cash flow, even though I talk about cash flow a lot. So it's something that you kind of have to figure out for yourself. But one way that I do it, it's a little bit of a subjective exercise, is I call it the minimum happiness amount or score. Okay, so minimum happiness score, meaning like if I bought a $500,000 property, at minimum, what would it need to cash flow for me to feel like it was a good investment at minimum? And if you're like, oh, I don't know, just start throwing out numbers to yourself. What about 10K? 10K a year. If that property made 10K a year, would you feel like that's a successful investment and you were excited about it? The answer is no. It's probably higher. What about 15K? What about 20? What about 30? You'll hit a number where you're like, yeah, I feel pretty good about that if it hit 20K. Awesome. That's your new goal. Okay, 20K is definitely doable, but that helps you understand for you personally where you think you fall at. Okay, don't let me or someone else tell you what your own goals are, because they're all independent of what we're trying to achieve. Not everybody's trying to leave their W-2 job. Not everyone's trying to have like financial freedom through just short-term rental investing. And so it just be careful and ask yourself those hard questions. Okay, good question. Is it reasonable to target a 10% net income on a 400? So you basically want 40K net on a 400K STR. That'd be a good deal. That'd be a unicorn. Hey, who am I to tell you unicorns don't exist? I mean, I bought a unicorn. I have a property that I bought for $350,000 that nets 80K a year. But I don't find those very often. So I'm not going to tell you that is I would not say that's quote unquote reasonable. I would say that is that would be amazing. So in fact, show me that one. I'd probably pull the trigger on it myself. So yes, is it reasonable? Probably not. I would say so 400K on an STR, if you're talking about net, you're probably looking at somewhere between you could say 10, but 15,000 to 25,000 net would be a good target for a 400K property, like fair. Like that's a good deal for what I'm seeing for 400K STR. Now, can you do better? Sure. We can always do better. Someone's doing better somewhere, but reasonable 15 to 25K on a 400K purchase. Okay. Got it. We have to pick a lane, assuming cannot pick all. I mean, you can, right? But like it narrows it down. So for example, if you want to focus on like cash flow, tax savings, and appreciation is a hard one to kind of focus on, right? Like you want to go into markets that are appreciating. Okay, cool. Well, historically, everywhere is appreciating 3% every year over the last 30 years. So is it like, is that like how long are you planning to hold the property is your decision on appreciation. So don't really make too many decisions on appreciation. It's really the tax savings and cash flow. So let's talk about that. If I'm looking at markets where I'm really trying to get the maximum, like for example, everyone here is trying to do a cost segregation study. If I'm looking for markets that try to maximize cost segregation studies, like the bonus depreciation, I'm looking in markets where I have high building value and low land value, because I can't depreciate land. I can only depreciate building value. So markets, for example, like beach markets, where the land is very expensive and the building value isn't as expensive, that's probably not a great market to be looking in for tax savings, because you can depreciate more in mountain markets like in Tennessee, North Carolina, Ohio, Kentucky, Wyoming, Montana, all these places where land is a lot cheaper and building value is everything. And that's how you're going to maximize your tax savings. So now I've just eliminated a whole list of markets that are high land value markets and focused more on, these other markets. Now I want cash flow. Well, markets like Wyoming, sometimes Montana, some of these other places, some of these other states, they're not high cash flowing markets. So they get eliminated. Now I'm stuck with, or I say stuck, but now I've got the list limited down to a few areas, which I could be fine with or not. So yeah, it goes back to picking a lane, but if you focus on too much, you might kind of weed out the possibilities of what's actually going to work for you. So don't chase, I guess, don't chase all three. Really focus, my opinion is really focus on cash flow and in areas that you probably can get better tax savings, and the rest will kind of follow. If you buy a really good property, it will appreciate. Okay. Like if it's a good deal and it cash flows, you probably didn't buy it at the peak of the market and for an overpriced. You bought it probably for a good deal. So the appreciation is going to come. That one I really wouldn't worry about. So, okay. Are you including mortgage payments in your expenses when you talk about net? Absolutely. Net is after all of your expenses, including mortgage, right? So, you have NOI, but that's like net operating income. I'm actually talking about net income, which is, in other words, cash flow. So yes, we always take out mortgage payments and our net income. That's why. So that's a good question, Sunil. So that's why when we do this, that's why I kind of give ranges. Remember, like for the 400K example, I was like 15 to 25 because yeah, if you take out a hard money loan at 10% interest, your net's not going to be the same as someone who takes out a 6.5% interest rate, over 30 years. Like it's going to vary. So that's why we give ranges for net revenue. No or very little mortgage has to be self-managed or else no cash flow. Yes. Is that the 40? I guess that has to do with the 10% thing. I don't know what that means. Okay. Would it be better to do a costing before or after making improvements? After, 100% after, because making improvements to the property, you can depreciate those things, Andy. So, and then last question from Sunil. And do your numbers include properties that are professionally managed? I self-manage, guys. I don't think anyone should pay 20% to a manager. No offense to property managers out there. I get why you do it, but there's so much technology and services out there where you don't actually have to do that. And that's one of the things that we do at STR Insights. We help people is we set them up with the services and everything. So it's almost as if it is run by a property manager, but they're not paying 20% of their income. They're only paying a monthly fee with those services, not with us, obviously, but with those services. And if that's something you guys are interested in our property finder service, so real quick, we help people find properties all across the country. These are just some examples of the properties, but especially if you're trying to do a cost seg this year, this is what we do and this is how we do it. So real quick, what we do is we sit down with people one-on-one and we'll literally help them figure out their goals. So TL, that's what you're looking for. We can help you do that. I can sit down with you and literally figure that out with you one-on-one. And then we work with you one-on-one to actually find the property, acquire it, get it set up, get it designed, even create your tech stack and everything for you. And that's all part of our Done With You program. So if you guys are interested in that, if you want to sit down and talk about it, I'm just throwing it out there now because I know some of you guys hop out early and that's fine. But strinsights.com/Kenny. That's Calendly link. Grab some time. Let's chat about our services if that's of interest. One other thing I forget to mention too, guys, I'm going to throw this out here. So for those of you who follow me, my Dallas property is live and I want to show you what we did to the garage. So this is the first time ever showing this publicly. So this is one of my properties. I invest in short-term rentals as well, guys. And I just bought a property in Fort Worth, Texas. And we took this shed and we wanted to turn it into a cool, we call it a stadium room. So we put a crazy simulator and some other things in here. And so this is what we turned it into. These are the actual pictures of it. So this is the inside. So it's a stadium room. It's a 3-wall sports simulator. It's all sports simulators. So any sport you can imagine, you could play it in here. It's got TVs up here, stadium seating, and just a hangout space where you can do all kinds of cool stuff. And we kind of themed it Dallas, the Mavs and the Cowboys. There's the fat head stickers and stuff in there too. So anyway, I wanted to show this off. But these kind of ideas, like we help people come up with. I'm seeing too much cookie cutter ties into what we're talking about here too. I see too much cookie cutter. We need to be thinking about the moat. We need to be thinking about things that separate us from everybody else. And these ideas are the things that we try to plan when we're looking for properties. It's like, we found a property, but what can we do with it to maximize revenue? And that's the goal. So for those of you who are shocked that you can net 20, 30, 40, I mean, this property will probably net about $100,000 to $125,000 net. After mortgage, we have a mortgage on it, okay? After all of our expenses and everything. I do this. If you go look at my Airbnb profile, I've got one in Asheville. I've got one in Kentucky. I've got one, this is Fort Worth. I'm about to launch another one in Arizona. Like, I do these. All of my properties net at least $75,000 or more because of the unique amenities, location, proximity, all these factors taken into account. And this is what I aspire to help people find as well. If I can do it, you can do it. Okay. So, and that's what we're kind of teaching here. So if you guys are interested in learning more about like what it is that I do or how I can help you specifically, you obviously know what I do, but how I can help you, grab some time. Let's chat. All right, let's keep moving. I'm going to hit some of the questions. I'll come back. I just want to keep it moving and flowing because I do want to look at these properties up here. Share some properties. Okay. We understand markets. We understand some goals, which is a good call out there. Now we need to talk about what specifically in the market will work. Okay. So if you've done the exercise correctly, you should come up with a decent list of markets around the country that can work. Literally pick some major cities and start looking for where do people go to ChatGPT, ask Google. Like if you don't know, literally go pick some random cities, look for two that are kind of close by. Like for example, where do people in DC and Baltimore go on vacation that's drivable within 3 to 4 hours? Guarantee it's going to spit out 3 to 4 vacation markets like Luray, Virginia, which is a good market. Write that market down. Shenandoah National Park. Also, Luray is in the valley. Shenandoah Valley. And there's a ton of wineries, wedding venues. It's a top 10 wedding venue destination in the United States, probably because people from DC and people from Baltimore need to be married somewhere, and they don't want to be married downtown most of the time, especially Baltimore. So where do they go? They go to these areas, right? Go and Google that. Go find those places. You will find different markets that potentially can work all across the country that match all the criteria I showed you guys. But now that you found them, what we need to look at are a couple other things. Okay, so first off, purchase price budget. Can I afford to be in that market? All right. Some of you are in California and you're looking at like Big Bear, Lake Tahoe, some of these places. They're expensive. If your budget's like $200,000 or $300,000, you're maybe buying a condo. And I do not recommend anyone buy a condo if you want to cash flow. Just personally do not recommend that for cash flow purposes only. Okay. So your budget probably isn't going to work there. So you're going to need to look somewhere else. Whereas if you have $1 million, you can pretty much buy anything anywhere. But that also might be too much money in certain markets based on revenue. We talked about revenue earlier. Next, we have barrier of entry. Barrier of entry is when I talk about the amenities to get into that market. At the very beginning, you remember the market I talked about that was like the most saturated one? Orlando. Okay. Yeah, I know. Okay. I'm sorry. I need to stop reading the chat while we're talking. So anyway, so most saturated markets like Orlando have a ton. It's a high barrier of entry, meaning you have to add all these amenities. You have to do crazy design, crazy decor, crazy everything. My number one best ROI deal was in a market where I was the first one to put in a hot tub in a lake market like 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I was the first one to put in a hot tub. That's crazy. A hot tub. That's like a standard amenity everybody in every single market should have. But I was the first one to do it in this market because the barrier of entry was so low. I'm still one of the only few, not one of the only few, or not the only one though, that does dynamic pricing in this market. It gives me a huge advantage. Simply finding markets that have low barriers of entry is one of the best ways to maximize your returns and get those like crazy numbers that nobody talks about. And 9 times out of 10, those markets are the ones that no one is talking about because if they were, everybody would be there and investing. Okay. So now the question I get is, well, how do I figure out the barrier of entry? Go into Airbnb, type in that market name, and look at the top properties on page 1. What amenities do they offer? What amenities don't they offer? What's missing? What's the quality of photos? What do they look like? That will tell you the barrier of entry. In a lot of markets, it's pretty high. Take the Smokies. Take, luxury markets, for example, Sedona, Colorado markets, like these different places. Like, it's high standard. Okay. You might be able to afford that, or you might not. If you can't afford that, know that that's where you have to start just to compete. Is that the wrong thing to do? No, we have clients all the time buying these big popular luxury markets, but they also have to add the amenities. They have to have the funds to be able to do it. So if you don't have the money to invest in the property, then look in low barrier of entry markets. Number 4, regulation. Obviously, if you can't STR there, it's not a good market. It's not a viable market. And then finally, we talked about this one before, but resources. I want to emphasize that one again. That's so important. Don't buy in the middle of nowhere where there's only 2 cleaners and they're both sisters. Okay. Let's look at examples. Okay. So what I want to do, let me answer some questions real quick because I see a lot of questions here. Okay. I'm just going to answer these in order. They're going to be kind of random, what I've talked about before. How would you define low land value, high building value? Not sure I understand that. So whatever property you buy, Lee, I don't know if you own a house or have STRs already, but if you do, when you buy property, you're buying land, a piece of property on land. If it's a single family home, okay. If it's a condo, probably don't have any land value because you're just buying the building, right? But when you buy a property, you're buying a house that's on land. The land is valued at a certain amount, and the house is valued at a certain amount, like the building, the structure is. Okay. The government wants you to buy property. Okay. And they give you a tax savings to buy property, but they don't give you tax savings just to buy land. They give you tax savings to buy property, like already built houses, to incentivize people buying houses instead of renting houses. And so what that means is that the government's telling you go buy a house, but more importantly, go buy a house that has more value than the land. And they give you benefits through the bonus depreciation of depreciating the building value, but you cannot depreciate the land value. So, for example, the house I'm sitting in, I bought it it's in North Carolina, bought it for like $800,000. Okay, $800,000 house. Okay, but it also came with an acre of land. So the house is worth one thing and the land is worth another. Okay, so when I talk to my insurance company and they're looking at the value, they're like, "Oh, the land is worth like $100,000 and your house is worth $700,000. So we're going to insure you on the $700,000 and like all the other things." Awesome. So that means when I go to get my taxes taken out, or when I do my taxes, I can depreciate the $700,000 building value, and the $100,000 of land value I can't do anything with from a tax saving standpoint. So low land value means like we want the total purchase price, we want the land value to make up a smaller amount of that than the building value. Does that make sense? Hopefully that makes sense. So like beach markets, land, if you just buy a plot of land there, it's really expensive. And the building value is not as expensive. So like in a beach market, you might see land value is like to buy an acre of, I don't know, just a crazy example. It might be $400,000. And to build a beach home there, it might be $400,000, which give you $800,000 total. Whereas like in a mountain market, the building might be $700,000 and the land is only $100,000. You're going to get a better tax benefit by buying in the mountain market because that land value is a lot less and you can depreciate more. Okay. How does your company make money? It grows on trees. Just kidding. So people pay us a fee to find them deals. That's what we do. So if you're interested, you just give us a call. We can talk about our fee structure and how it works and how we can help you. Rough ballpark, an investment for stadium room. The simulator was $50,000. The rest of the room to put it together and everything was another $40,000. So $90,000. When someone comes to assistance in finding, when someone comes to you for assistance in finding properties. I don't think I understand that question. Can you rephrase it for me? Curious what something like that sports room costs you. $90,000. Bill just bought a condo in Destin for appreciation purposes. So I know what he buys. And it wasn't Destin, it was Panama City Beach. What is the minimum gross yield for all of your clients? So it depends on the client and their goals. Okay. So if you want something to cash flow, and gross yield is what I coin gross ROI. the gross, so it's gross revenue divided by, for those who don't know, Rob, I know you know this, but gross revenue divided by the purchase price of the property. So if I buy a $500,000 property and it grosses $100,000, that would be 100,000 divided by 500 would be 20%. So that would be a 20% gross yield is how Rob that's what he's defining. So a property will not cash flow if it's a less than 14% gross yield. So some people buy properties at 14% gross yield. Other people buy properties at 20%. It's more like what we target to find. Most of the time we're finding stuff between 15 and 18% gross yield, sometimes 20, sometimes more. It really depends on what the client does with the property, but it's going to be between 15 and 18%. If a condo is on a golf course with a high HOA, would you consider it? Wow, that sounds very, very specific, Tonya. And I would probably tell you to email me more details before I give you a straight up answer. So let's do that. I don't know if I can reply. I'm going to put my email in the chat. You guys can email me if you have questions too that I didn't answer. I'm happy to, just take an email. I don't know enough information to tell you yay or nay. So I'm going to punt until you give me more specifics. Like I need the property information. Off the cuff, I'd probably say no, but I don't have enough information. Oh, wow. Something hurricane. You mentioned example walkthrough. Could we use this? No. And the reason why is because that property, I already know the market really, really well. No offense. I'll take a look at it later for you. Send me an email. I'm happy to take a look, but I'm pretty sure it's not going to cash flow. And I only want to show a few properties that can in the examples. Condo is not great because of HOH. Yeah, that's probably what I'm going to lean towards, Rick, but we just need more information. We bought condos and already cost segregated them. So you say you should sell them. Depends on your equity, your return on equity. Are they cash flowing? If they're cash flowing, great. Then why would you sell them? But if they're only cash flowing a little bit and you have equity in them, it might be time to move on and scale up. And I probably would do that. Rick says, wait 5 years. Yeah, exactly. We don't know a whole lot of your situation, Lee. So a lot of advice that we're giving, probably just take with a grain of salt until we have like a further conversation. Someone asked thoughts on building a duplex for STR in a vacation destination instead of buying an existing home. I don't know what the cost to build there. I don't know what the cost to build a duplex in that market would be. A side-by-side duplex is the best duplex if you want to know about a duplex. I don't have enough information either. Sorry, Nate, but that side-by-side duplex is what you're looking for from like the ideal one. Is your deal finder performance driven or fixed fee? It's a fixed fee. Let's see. By the way, one of the property condos is in Destin, Florida. Okay. Hopefully it's making money. All right. How dumb is buying land for a teardown build and build two condos and townhouses? 100 feet from the beach, but land is 1 mil, so probably 2 mil project estimate. Would it be good? Would it be a good client for a large loan up front for an investment? Henry, that is a deep question. Send me an email, my man. Send me an email. I put my email in the chat, kenneth.bedwell@STR Insights, but call me Kenny. And send me an email with those details. I need a lot more information. And I'll probably ask you some more information. Tran says, to scale more STR, do you recommend using DSCR because of debt to income ratio via investment commission loan? Yes, it depends on your situation, but yes, to scale. Now, the real answer to scaling is you're probably gonna have to partner with people eventually. Okay, so as we actually want to scale, so like for myself, those of you who don't know, I started with a few properties. I've scaled up. I now partner with people on properties. So I work with people and I partner with them. Partnered on a hotel. I have a hotel now. I've partnered on these big STRs as well. Okay, partnering is like the way you get to level 3. I think using different loan types is how you get to level 2, and then getting from 2 to 3 is starting to partner. So yes, I do DSCR loans when I buy personally, but I'm also technically self-employed. The bank thinks I don't make any money at all due to my tax returns, so maybe I don't make any money. I don't know. That's between me and the government. So anyway, but yes, I do use DSCR loans as I'm trying to scale. At first, I was doing a lot of conventional, but I do want to protect my DTI. Okay, cool, guys. Let's look at some examples, and I think I answered most of the questions here so far. If you got more, throw them in the chat. I'll circle them up later. What I want to do in these examples, number one, I'm going to briefly talk about the market. I don't want to spend too much time on the market because most of you won't care about some of the markets. That's fine. Some of you will. And I have different purchase price options, but I want to show you deals that caught my eye literally this morning. Okay. I've never done this before. I've never just pulled out 5 deals actually that I found online this morning that are live. I think they're all for sale because I found them this morning. If I found them last night, chances are one of them will be under contract already. But I think these are actually potentially good deals. Now, keep in mind, I literally just visually saw them. I haven't gotten videos. I don't know. We need to check. You always need to check STR. I'm pretty sure, actually, we're good on the regulations. So just kind of mentally know, I know these markets well enough. And we know, what else? Don't know about these properties. There's some other things. I'll tell you what I'm thinking when I see these properties and why I think they're potentially good deals and what other information I need to have in order to confirm my suspicions that they are particularly good deals. So let's dive into it. Okay, so I'm going to start low purchase price and then we're going to go high purchase price. Like boom, 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 boom. We're going to scale up. So if you're like, hey, my budget's over $1 million, calm down. I'll get there. Okay. We're going to start with low. So this property is in Stanton, Kentucky. So Stanton, Kentucky is in the Red River Gorge. Okay, I'm going to blow this up real quick on the map so you guys can see where this is. Okay, this is a market that I really like. Let's talk about it real quick. Hey, I'm drivable from 2 major cities. In fact, I'm actually drivable from 3. All right, so the Red River Gorge is a state park in Kentucky. About 600 to 800,000 people travel here per year to go hiking, climbing. There's a lot of Jeeps. They do like Jeep parades and all that. Like it's just an outdoorsy hangout crew or whatever. And one thing I really liked about this property, so this is like the road. There's a couple entrances, but this is one of the main entrances. It's right here. Takes you right there, and it's like right along the way. So superb location. And who doesn't love a cute A-frame, right? So this is a 2-bed, 1-bath, 800 square feet, listed at $370. Now, if we're doing some math, some quick math, and that when I'm looking for deals, I kind of do some quick math first, and then I dive in deeper. I didn't run a pro forma for this. I didn't call a realtor. I literally found this about 2 hours before our call today. Okay, that's as far as it's gone. So please don't, if you have deeper questions like that, I don't have them. But I do want to talk about why I think this is a good deal and high-level revenue numbers so that you get a rough idea in terms of like knowing, okay, yeah, this is something to consider, and this market is pretty cool too. So number one thing I really like about this market, for those of you trying to cost seg, property is a newer construction. I think it even said that somewhere. Built in 2022, right? So it's newer. Okay, so you're going to have low CapEx, capital expenditures and repairs and things. And this is it looks like it's already furnished as a short-term rental. Do I love the furnishings in this? Heck no. And I would probably improve them with the design and decor, which would give me better revenue. Okay, it's already got a hot tub. It's kind of got a fire pit, 2 chairs. Obviously, there's some room for improvement, but I love A-frames, and I think this is a really cool one. I would probably do some paint and some other stuff on that, but anyway, we got the framework for something potentially. But now the magic question is revenue. Let's dive into it. So remember, this is a 2-bed. It's only 800 square feet. Okay, so we're going to go into STR Insights. We have a free tool called Property Analyzer. If you want to access it, all you have to do is go to strinsight.com, click Start Today, and it will take you straight to the analyzer. It's 100% free, and you don't even need an account to use it. Thank you, Kenny, for creating that for us for free. You're welcome. Okay, put in the address. Now, this property is so new, the address isn't even in Google Maps yet, which is kind of cool, even though it's 2022. So it's one of those markets where it's like definitely like that state park feel. Okay, so I'm going to put this in here, and it's going to change the address. I did this morning and found out the hard way. I'm going to put in the bedroom count of 2, okay, and it's going to create a radius and show me revenue. I'm not going to look at the average revenue because I'm not buying the average, right? I'm buying a property in a good location that's unique. It's an A-frame. Okay, so this isn't even the right location. If I'm looking at the map, the property is actually located over here. So what I need to do is expand my radius. I think the magic number was 8. No, not quite. A little bit bigger. Excuse me. I think it was it 13 or 12? I can't remember what I had to do this morning. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so in order for this property to cash flow, remember, I hinted at it earlier. We need the property to do what in revenue? At least 14% of the purchase price in revenue. That's assuming you offer 370. Okay. So at 370, when doing some basic math, I need the property to generate about $50,000 or $52,000. Okay. So the first thing I look for when I'm looking at the data and I'm pulling in the correct radius of properties, these are only 2 bedrooms. Okay. Are there 2 bedrooms nearby that are doing over $52,000? What is my answer? Yes, I have 1, 2, 3. Now I could expand my radius a little more because I'm not quite, I think I probably could, but whatever. This is close enough. I have 3 properties. And I can click into these properties and look at them too to see what they look like. All right. And that one's doing, let's click on this one. Okay. This is like a tree house with a little thing there. It's kind of cool. I think the A-frame could probably do this. It's a 2-bed, 1 bath, 3 beds. So like, guys, like I think we have, remember, look at the barrier of entry. Look at the revenue potential. It's the drivable distance from 2, 3 major cities. It's checking all these boxes. And we're going down to the detailed property level. Okay, I want to keep showing other properties. I don't want to dive too deep into these. We're not doing like a single property review here, but like, guys, this is a potentially good one. And I think with a little bit of, maybe painting it and adding a few extra design and some maybe smaller amenities or other things to improve it, I think it could do $60,000 to $70,000, which is above our minimum 14% range. Okay, so anyway, if you're interested in this, I'll throw it in the chat. There you go. There's property number 1. Take it while it's hot. Let's go to property number 2. So we are looking in Berkeley Springs, West Virginia. Where is Berkeley Springs, Kenny? So remember I mentioned 2 random cities earlier, DC and Baltimore. Look at that. And even you could argue Philadelphia as well. So DC and Baltimore, this is about an hour and a half outside of both of those cities. So Berkeley Springs has a state park. And also there is a community here. It's a resort that has a ton of like really cool amenities, like an indoor pool, an outdoor pool, and like all these sports things. And just properties seem to do really well. And Berkeley Springs is also like kind of this valley here. And there's like and then this is the state park down here. And there's like this cool resort lodge, and it's like a luxury feel. Depending on luxury is defined as maybe different for different people. But anyway, that's supposedly what it is. So it's in a cool location, drivable from those cities. And this is what it looks like. Now, this isn't a home wrecker, new build, new construction property. You're not going to find any of those in this market. Okay, this is more of like a simple cabin. It's listed at $450,000. There's obvious improvements that can be made. Okay, but once again, we talk about barrier of entry, and we're looking at the properties here. Most of them aren't new builds. Some of them are updated, but most of them aren't. And if we go into STR Insights, let's do the same exercise we did with the Kentucky property. We put in this. Okay, and that was a 5-bedroom. I'm going to show you guys a trick real quick. When I hit 5 bedrooms, my guest count can fluctuate when I'm looking for comparable properties. And so what I want to do is I'm actually going to look at guest count. So I'm going to look at 16 or more, 14, 15, and I can look at 13 and 12, because what I'm going to find in some markets, so let me show you, for example, there's going to be properties. I'm going to blow this up to about 5, was it? Yeah, around there. That's fine. Yeah, okay, I got plenty of that check. So like, let me see this one. That's a 5-bed. But like, look at this. I mean, it's nice, but it's like on the interior, it's actually really nice. But on the outside, it's like not like write home about, right? There's nothing to write home about. This one, it's a little bigger. This one, okay. So here's a really good example of what I'm talking about. This is a 4-bedroom outperforming 5 bedrooms. So when we get to that like upper bedroom echelon, don't just rely on bedroom count. Look at lower bedroom counts too, because in some of these markets, some of the 4 bedrooms or even 3 bedrooms will outperform the higher bedroom counts because the competition is so much lower. When you go to more established markets like the Smokies or like Tahoe, Big Bear, Scottsdale, whatever, the 4 bedrooms make X amount, then the 5 bedrooms make Y amount, and then the 6 bedrooms make Z amount or Z amount. Like it tiers up. But in these less competitive markets, you see 3s and 4s making more than 5 bedrooms because the barrier of entry is lower. I love those types of markets, and they're all around. Okay, so going back to purchase price on this one's $450,000. We're doing our basic math here, $450,000 times 14%. I only need it to do $63,000. Okay, in STR Insights, I'm seeing properties in the same market, in the same neighborhood, 120, 108, 105, 100, 95, and then all the way down to 57. So If you leave the property as is it going to do these high numbers? No. It obviously needs some improvements, but there's a lot of opportunity, and I think that's actually a really good property as well. Let me put that one in the chat for you too. Enjoy. Okay, moving on. Let's keep going, and I'll hit some questions here as we kind of wrap up. Okay, this is another really, really good market, and I wanted to highlight the market more so than the property. This property is okay, but the market, I love the market. So this is Keystone, South Dakota. This is near the national park, Mount Rushmore, which is right here. Okay. If I'm looking in this market, so where is this? Okay. You have South Dakota, you have Rapid City. And remember, we're just near drivable. This isn't a fly-in destination, it's a drive-in destination near a national park. I love this area, especially Keystone and in around the national Mount Rushmore, but you also have Badlands, which is over here. You have Deadwood and Lead, which is, Leeds, which is the ski markets. Hill City, I think, has a ski market as well, or a ski slope. But I really like Keystone area, more importantly. Watch out for regulations in some of the little towns, but this is a potentially good area. So once again, we're going to go over here, grab this. Now, keep in mind, we have a 4-bed, 5 full baths, and 4,500 square feet. So that's a really big 4-bedroom property. There's probably additional bedrooms in this property. So I am going to run guest count, not bedroom count again, because this is a pretty big one. Okay, I'm also at a higher purchase price range. So it better do more revenue. So let's go up. Let's go to, I'm going to do 14, 15, 16 and hit search. Okay, so, okay. So once again, I'm not going to get obviously the comparables, and you can look around. We're at a 9-mile radius, but and we can extend that. Let's maybe go up to, was it 13 was the magic number? Yeah, 13. So guys, look at this. Remember, what's my purchase price? $825. Let's do the math on this one. $825 times 14, minimum $115. Are there properties doing a minimum of $115? Yes, we have $394, $277, $142, all the way down. Here's one. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 doing all within that. Now, they're all over the place. So there's a couple down here. I'll probably need to investigate that. There's one over here. There's one over here. So they're all over. It's not just a specific cluster. So that tells me that, yes, this property has the potential to do that amount, assuming there's no other issues or other problems with it. And that definitely needs to be investigated. So, but I really like this market, and the numbers show it off for sure. So definitely this one is a good one. I'll put this one in the chat as well. Okay. And you're going to see purchase prices range from 500 to 900,000. I really wouldn't go over 900,000 in this market. Don't think it's worth it. Okay. Let's go to the Hudson Valley area. Some of you are from New York, New Jersey, up in there. This is a great market. So where's the Hudson Valley? So the Hudson Valley is right outside of New York City. All right. Millions of people. You've got New Jersey, New York. I mean, you could argue Philadelphia. You can maybe even say Boston too. You have Albany. All this whole area, Eastern Seaboard, can go and can travel to the Hudson Valley. But I mean, really, it's New York City. All the 8 million, 9 million people, all within an hour's drive of the Hudson Valley. Fabulous market. Okay. We have this property here. I'm going to spoil it. I guess I can run the comps real quick. I also have them pulled up somewhere because I think this one's a really good one got a client who's interested in it. So this was a 5-bedroom. So I'm going to go guest count again. Okay. I'm going to hit search. Yep. Look at that. 492, 283, 205, 146, all within a 4-mile radius. And what was my purchase price? 1,045. Let's call it $1 million. So 14% of that. So we just needed to do around 150,000, 160,000. And what are we doing? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 comps, all doing that within a 4-mile radius. That's a good one, guys. Obviously, you need to look at the property and look at some of the other amenities and things that the other properties offer. But I've kind of done that. I'm rushing through some of this. So I'm also saying, hey, Kenny's identified it for a particular reason. All right. So look into it. And if you have questions, you can shoot me an email about them as well. Last one I want to show you, higher purchase price. We're up to about 1.4 million now, and we're in Sedona, Arizona. Okay. This one's really important as a good example. Now, Sedona, once again, we are driving distance, okay, from Phoenix, Scottsdale area. and also technically Las Vegas. I mean, people, Albuquerque, like LA, like people drive all over to go to Sedona. It's beautiful. All right. This property has the views. It also has a rooftop, which is really freaking badass. Okay. Now, I want to show you something. People have passed on this property. Why have they passed on the property? So let's look at the purchase price, and I'm going to run the address in the tool real quick. Okay. So I'm going to run the address in the tool, and it's going to tell me, I'm going to put in bedrooms. It's only a 3-bedroom. Okay. This is a more established market, but this is a good example. So 40 comps within a mile, 155, 147, 143, 132, 132. Okay, cool. So 155, if I take that 155 and divide that by my purchase price, that gives me 11.1% gross ROI. We need it to be 14%. Okay. So what is 14% of our purchase price, assuming that's what we offer? 195. There are no properties doing 195. Well, Kenny, why did you list this one? Here's why. The square footage and the bathrooms. It has 3 full bathrooms and 2,500 square feet. When we look at the other, if you got to kind of know the market too. So there's a little bit of this involved. When you look at the other 3 bedrooms in this market, they're usually all under 2,100 square feet in Sedona most of the time. So this is a larger 3-bedroom, and it has 3 full bathrooms. What does that mean? That means if you put up a wall, there's probably an office that could be considered a bedroom on Airbnb. Okay. Now, there actually is no you need to verify the regulation on permitting of the septic, and I'm pretty sure you can. You can on this property. We know you can. That's why I'm showing you this property, because we know this is the only one I've talked to a realtor about. It's got a rooftop. It's got amazing views. It does need a pool. Okay. To put in a pool, but if you run 4 bedrooms, and if you were to make this a 4-bedroom property, okay, let's look at 4 bedrooms in this market. All of a sudden, your revenue goes up to 250, 230, 230. Okay, and this is only a mile radius. I could expand it, but it's going to be between 225 and 250 is what I think the revenue on this one could be. So at a 1.395 purchase price, that makes incredible sense if you can make it a 4-bedroom. Okay, the layout's a little wonky, so we'll want to look into that. And it does need a pool, so it was going to require a little bit of cash. But for those of you who can afford this type of market and property, this is a really good one, and one I would definitely consider. And I'm going to put it in the chat. So there you go. Okay. Let me go back here, and then I'm going to take some questions, and then we'll keep going. Okay. So I just shared with you 5 different deals at 5 different purchase prices. Whether you're interested in those deals or not, awesome. Hopefully someone is. Okay. And if it works out, let me know and keep me posted. But I think those are actually decent properties that I looked at this morning. Okay. If you have more questions about, hey, what other markets are out there? Number 1, I encourage you to go to my podcast. I have an episode called, Hey, Top STR Markets, Part 1 and Part 2. Go listen to that episode. Okay. You can also download a free markets report at STR Insights. So if you go to strinsights.com, well, let me go here, strinsights.com. And if you go to data and tools and you click top markets report, you can download and get a free report of, it's like over 80 different markets across the country of markets that I personally like and the data behind them. So go download the report. If you're looking for new markets and the types of markets I'm talking about. Okay. Cool. And then finally, so I'm going to leave this up here. Finally, if you have questions, if you want to chat about our property finder service, let's talk. Schedule a call, strinsights.com/Kenny. Let's have a conversation. Okay. Questions. So I'm going to start way up the top here and go through all the questions. You can post any questions you want in the chat. For all intents and purposes, from like a presentation standpoint, I'm done. But I think some of these questions will help you guys out. Okay, sorry if I missed something. Please put it back in the chat. Do you avoid developed markets like Asheville or depend on the price? So I actually have a property in Asheville. Asheville is very, very competitive right now, and it's still recovering from the hurricane. So be very careful about Asheville. It's gotten really competitive recently. And if you follow that market and you follow those people who are in that market, you should know why it's really competitive. But I really have put a pause on searching or heavily searching in Nashville. I always look. I mean, there's always things that can pop up, but it's competitive and it's gotten pricey. So we're very careful in Nashville. So it's not on my top 10 list, if that's kind of what you're wondering. Very cute. Love an A-frame. I do too. How do you account for natural disasters? Sometimes these property zones are in the hurricane tornado belts. So that's a personal preference question, TL. So basically, if you don't like hurricanes, if you're afraid of hurricanes, don't buy in Florida, right? Or along the coast. So it's like most vacation markets are going to can be impacted by a natural disaster. So it's more about balancing out your portfolio than letting like a natural disaster dictate purely where you invest. It doesn't mean I wouldn't say like, oh, I don't want to be in a fire zone. I don't want to be in a tornado area. I don't want to be in you're really going to have a hard time in that case if you try to take into account all natural disasters. You're probably going to end up in the Midwest or the Northeast if that's the case, which isn't a bad bet, but just keep that in mind. Like that might not align with your personal preferences on where you want to invest either. So I wouldn't really let that dictate necessarily natural disasters dictate where I would invest. But it's something to keep in mind. You know, obviously you're going to know when you see the insurance and you get quotes for insurance. But usually when it comes to natural disasters, I'm like, look, pick one that you would like to avoid and we'll stay away from those areas. All the other ones, we can't just take everything into account, especially when they're unpredictable. Okay. Any way to estimate land and structure values from online tools? Yes. You go to the county assessor's website and they'll tell you what, actually you can go to the property and you can plug it in the county assessor's website of the particular county that property's in, and it will tell you the land to building value ratio. So yeah, you can do that for any property. There isn't like a single tool that I use for that. I just type in the county name and it's usually the land assessor's office or there's usually like a tool or something you can type in an address and do it. It's not hard to find. I'm trying to figure out why some places like West Jefferson are on the recommended list, but I see the average because you're looking at the average revenue. I don't look at average revenue. That's not like, that doesn't mean anything to me. Do not try to buy the average. If you buy the average, you're not going to make any money. I mean, like we only buy top, like we're only looking to buy top performing properties. And if the properties we're looking at can't perform at the top, don't buy them. Okay. And if you're like, well, I can't afford anything that can perform at the top, you're looking in the wrong market. Go into markets where you can afford that because that's what you have to do to get a good return. No longer can we just buy the average and get away with it and it make money. I never look at averages, even when I'm looking at average gross revenue of a property or whatever. It has nothing to do with that. It's all about comparable properties that are top performing ones. That's what I'm going to compete with. That's what I want to be at and I'm going to shoot for when I go to purchase. And that's the same thing I do for my clients too. Okay. What about renovation costs? What about it? Yeah, you have renovation costs. You also have design costs. You have amenity costs. You have all these other costs too that can go into whether a deal is going to make sense or not. So that would be the pro forma side, and you have to get quotes and all those other things. Did I get quotes on those properties? No, I literally looked at them this morning, so I don't have any of that information. But yes, we take that into account when we're underwriting any deal. So there's 5 things that go into every STR investment: down payment, closing costs, reno or construction. That's essentially reno costs, your design and furnishings, and your amenities. All right, what else we got? Is Flagstaff worth exploring or too expensive? Well, I just bought a property in Flagstaff and I'm about to launch it next month. So you tell me. If one purchases a property for $1 million and spend $200 to $400 in rehab and finishing, the RV is probably okay. Maybe. The gross revenue is around 200 to 240K. Is this a good deal? Okay, so Rob, you need a pro forma that's going to tell you if this is a good deal. So on my site, if you go to data and tools, we have a pro forma. Okay. So it's a spreadsheet calculator where you can put all of this information in. We have a spot on holding costs. We have actually we don't, but you can budget that into your setup costs and renovation cost. We have a spot for renovation costs and all those things. And you can put that into the calculator and it will tell you what your estimated returns are going to be. And then you can make a decision based off of that. Looking at this, if it's going to do between 200 to 240, you're putting in 400K. What's your down payment amount? I need to know your down. Because that's going to tell me your cash on cash. But your cash flow should be decent. So that might be good. You're going to do over 50. But then the question is like your ARV really isn't that much better. So is that a big factor? It depends on how long it's going to take it to get up and going, what your holding costs are. So those are a couple things I would need to know before I give you a yay or nay, but it sounds decent. Any way to estimate land structure value? Yes. I think I answered that one already. So thank you, Kenny. This was amazing info. You're welcome. Good. Someone enjoyed it. You mentioned Shenandoah Valley and the national park there. Are there specific submarkets that you really like there? Would you advise? Stanley, Luray, Elkington. Yes, those are all within that market. So, yeah. So the national park is the main traffic driver there, Brett. That like 4.6 million people a year go there. But then there's wineries, wedding venues, other activities too, outdoor activities. There's a big river that people go down. Obviously you got mountain views, things like that. It's a cool overall market. Wouldn't spend anything over like 900 there. That'd be a little bit, anything over like 900 is like too expensive in that market. It's a good market. Awesome. Look forward to speaking with you, Sunil. Generally speaking, in the Western U.S., limited because the greater spread out of nature and metro. No, that's not the reason why. It's because of the second point you have here, Brad. The price points are more expensive. That's really the hard part with the West Coast is price points are typically way more expensive than what the revenue of those properties can produce. Does it necessarily mean that they're bad deals? No, I just showed you the one in Sedona. There's still some opportunity, but overall, like I think someone mentioned earlier, like one in like Hurricane, Utah, it's probably going to be too expensive. I know that market well. I'm actually going to Utah tomorrow. So like I know Utah pretty well. I went to school out there, lived out there for a few years. Like it's expensive, especially in southern Utah. It's a beautiful market. Love Utah, but that's the problem with a lot of the West. Montana, especially Colorado, Utah, California. It's kind of pricey. And then you also have insurance costs as well, have gotten really pricey too. And so a lot of places like California, where the forest fires and all that stuff happened or near there, you can't even get insured on some of the properties, which is a big red flag. So be careful, in general with the West Coast, but it is challenging. Okay. I live in Scottsdale area and would like to have a place there. Oh, in Flagstaff. Okay, I was about to say Scottsdale. Okay, good luck. All right, that's a tough one. When I calculate my gross revenue, I hit 16%. Yeah, the current market value is at 8%. Like the price of the property. So you're the seller. Well, it doesn't matter to you. If you're selling a property, short-term rentals are not sold based on like the gross revenue. They're not. They're sold based off market comparables as residential homes. So you can only sell it. So if it's being sold at 8%, then you can sell it at 8%, right? Assuming someone buys it at that. But that doesn't really matter to you as the seller. As the buyer, that's what we're looking for. Okay. So it just kind of depends on the demand in your area and what residential comps are in that area. Rob S said 10% down. And I'm sorry, Rob, I have to go back to your question. Oh, you're doing you gave me a fat range for the reno. You said 200 to 400. So you're doing an extra 100,000. So it's probably gonna be $500,000, 240. Yeah, that'll pencil out. Kind of well. That's not bad. You can send me an email with it. I'll take a look at it for you. But yeah, that doesn't sound too bad. Don't worry, I won't share it with anybody. Thoughts on Maine? Love Maine. Great area. You're probably going to have to put some money into improving the property. Certain parts of Maine are better than others. Watch out for regulation. But I really like Maine, though. So it's a good area. Just not a lot of people are afraid of Maine because of seasonality. How much of a factor should saturation levels and competition be in market selection? So this goes back to kind of the beginning, Mitchell, where we talk about the probability. So saturation to me is probability. Okay. Meaning like if, for example, if I told you that a market was 11% saturated, what would that mean to you? Would that mean that it's really saturated, somewhat saturated, not really saturated at all? It's subjective. It doesn't mean anything, right? It just means that there's some sort of saturation, and that saturation level to you is how you deem it. It could be a lot. It could, like, I've asked an audience that before, and I literally got like 3 different definitions, and that's the problem. So saturation levels don't really tell me anything. They just tell me more about like this market can be competitive. And the more saturated it is, the more competitive it probably is, which tells me that I have less and less a probability of finding a deal in that market. So that's why like it's a good indicator of competitiveness, but it doesn't necessarily mean you cannot compete in that market. It just means it's going to be harder to find opportunities in that market. Okay. So if you find a bunch of markets that are all at the same saturation level, then there you go. Like you just look in those markets until you find something. But if you find a market that has less saturation than other markets, it's usually an indicator that it's less competitive and you're probably going to find something faster. Then it just comes down to your bandwidth, meaning how quickly can you actually find something. What's the best way to estimate utility costs in an area for projecting expenses? Good question. My rule of thumb, rough rule of thumb, is anywhere in like the Southeast, West Coast, just sunnier areas. It's usually about $100 per bedroom plus $100 on average per month. Okay. The Northeast or Midwest, where it gets really, really cold and you have like oil or gas or other things that can kind of be expensive in the wintertime, I'm going to say it's $100 per bedroom plus $200. So for example, if I have a 4-bedroom house, it would be $400 plus $200 if I was in the Northeast, which would be $600 for utilities. And that's pretty conservative. And then obviously if you have a heated pool, that can tack on an extra $200 a month as well. So now obviously guests can pay for that, but there's always parts in time where your guests don't pay for everything and the pool gets heated, whether someone's staying there or not. So just if you have a heated pool, it's going to go up as well. But that's my rough rule of thumb. What's your sentiment on overall STR market for private investors versus large scale developers in the next 1 to 2 years? Do you think opportunities will be limited to only top? How would you define top 1 to 5% of wealthy? Are you talking about like hedge funds or something? I mean, that maybe no. Like I still think in the next 1 to 2 years it'll still be relatively similar to today. I think the market is just kind of stabilizing, right? People are really, I think there'll be less people wanting to get in who don't have a lot of experience. You're going to see more experienced people keep doubling down, keep investing because they know what works. And you'll see less experienced people getting burned and exiting the market. I don't know if that answers your question about private versus large-scale developers, but that's kind of where my head's at with it. But we'll always see large-scale development happening all around the country at all times. Does accessibility need to play a role? Meaning once purchased, being able to go to the destination. And that's kind of up to you. I mean, I have a friend, she's like, she calls it 2 camels and a mule, meaning like she doesn't want to take 2 flights and then drive like 4 hours. So you might want to do a direct flight and then drive, but you're probably going to want to drive. So it's really up to you. But yeah, I mean, all of our properties are a flight and a drive. So yeah, like all of them are 1 flight and then a drive of hour, maybe 2. So what are your suggestions for the Smoky Mountains STR? Anywhere else you're interested in? I mean, look, it's not it's obviously a popular market. It's very challenging for cash flow standards. So it depends on what you're wanting and what returns you're expecting. It's not at the top of my list, if that's what you're wondering. But we do have people who buy there, and there are people who are successful there. So once again, I'm not ruling it out, but it's just not the first market I would look into as a cash flowing short-term rental market. Good market for tax savings, though. Your thoughts on Greenville, South Carolina? That market's popped up a lot recently. I've heard people talk about this market. I don't get the hype. I see the revenue. It's just not very good. So like, I don't understand like why people are like, hey, Greenville. Maybe one day I'll see it. But it's something I've just got my eye on it. I just haven't seen anything that's been like, I should definitely look there all the time. Private investors with large capital, 1 million in liquidity. Yeah, but I mean, Henry, they're probably buying like commercial assets, not necessarily just like short-term rentals. So I mean, they could, but I think a lot of them are buying commercial properties because they can be traded at a cap rate, rather than just like short-term rentals, which are still considered residential property. So I don't sure. Maybe in a few years when short-term rentals become more recognized in industry-wise, especially by banks as commercial rather than residential, but that hasn't quite happened yet. Best market for NC. Oh, NC is tough right now. It's still Asheville. That's the best one in North Carolina. The other ones are trash. No offense, but I'd love to buy in the Outer Banks. It's just the revenue doesn't make sense. So same thing with the high country, like Boone, Banner Out. It's bad. I wouldn't do it, especially with the climate kind of warming up. We've seen less and less snowfall. Just not. I wouldn't do that. Asheville, maybe Waynesville, Bryson City, something smaller out there. Asheville, you could do something a little bit bigger. It's just really competitive. So back against the wall, Asheville, North Carolina. Any markets that have homes in the $400,000 to $500,000 range that are on lakes or rivers that would be worth looking into that you are recommending? So Luray, Shenandoah is on a river. Hot Springs, Arkansas is on a lake. You could do Geneva, Ohio, which is on Lake Erie. You could do really anywhere in Michigan that's on a lake. I mean, I would be looking Midwest, Ohio, Michigan, maybe Wisconsin for your lake markets. And then, like I mentioned, you could do Virginia for the river. And then I mentioned Hot Springs, Arkansas. So those are all going to hit your budget. What's your insights on a 5, 2.5? I know 4 baths would be ideal, considering hosting 10 to 12. You can definitely do it. Depends on the market too, but if it's a low barrier of entry market, that's totally fine. I have a client who bought in Kentucky, is a 5, 2.5, hosts 12 people. He said he's never gotten a complaint before. So I was like, wow, that's interesting. So yeah, 5, 2.5 can work. Now, if you're in a market where there's a lot of 5.4s or 5.3s, probably not going to work. So just do your research. Have you done any research in Des Moines, Iowa? I have, and you're going to buy something very small, very inexpensive. That's what's going to work. Anything kind of bigger, the revenue just isn't there. There's just not a lot of big traffic drivers with a lot of people coming to that area to warrant anything that makes financial sense on a larger standpoint. But like a 2, maybe a 3 bedrooms are tough. But 2 bedroom, 1 bedroom, that's what I'd be targeting. What about Southern Lakes, Lake Norman? Okay. You have to be careful, Lake Lanier, Lake Key. Where is Lake? I don't even know where that is. You can help me out, but I get what you're saying. You're saying North Carolina, Georgia, and I assume the other one is somewhere in between. Lake Norman is okay. Lake Lanier, you got to be careful of regulations. It can be fine. The problem with the Southern Lakes is most of the houses are pretty expensive around the lake, especially waterfront. So, and they're very seasonal in terms of revenue. So it doesn't really give you a long runway to make a whole lot of money. So I don't find a lot of them that actually make sense. Lake markets are one of the hardest markets to make sense unless you're talking about the Midwest. So, but in the Southeast, it's very challenging. So anyway, just my thoughts on it. Any destination suggestions for Idaho? There's like one lake in Idaho. That's northern Idaho. That's a hard. That entire state's really hard. I haven't seen anything make sense in Idaho for a hot minute. But yeah, I've looked everywhere. Your best bet's like Victor Driggs, going near like Jackson Hole. So yeah, some of those markets were hot, and they've just gotten crazy expensive for the revenue. You got Greensboro, North Carolina. Yeah, buying something, once again, you have to get a more urban market, but remember your revenue ranges aren't too high, so buying something a little bit smaller, that's going to make sense from an ROI standpoint. Thoughts in Indianapolis, buying something very inexpensive there too. A lot of these urban markets, I'm looking for something relatively inexpensive. If you can get a 4 bedroom for like under 500,000 in a lot of these places, that makes sense. Your revenue is really just kind of capped, right? Like most properties aren't going to do over $100,000. And so like you're going to do maybe 110, 120 best case scenario. So if you start doing $600,000, $700,000, $800,000 houses, that's not going to make sense financially. So be careful about those. Any thoughts on Adirondack National Park? There's an Adirondack National Park. I just knew the Adirondacks, which I've been to, but anyway, I learn something new every day, I guess. Yeah, I mean, they're good. Vermont's good. New Hampshire is good. Check with the White Mountains of New Hampshire if you're looking in that area. North, I'm familiar with it. But yes, so it's Adirondacks are okay, but I would check out Vermont, New Hampshire, especially near the ski areas. Thoughts on Dallas-Fort Worth area? Probably lakefront or a possible rural ranch space within 2 hours. I mean, I just popped there and did that, so you do the math on that one. I would be careful of regulation. It's tough. It took me about 8 months to find something in that market that made sense and also was in a good area, and we could legally STR. There were so many hurdles with that. So, yes, it can work. Just be careful of the regulation. Okay, I think we've concluded and reached the end here, and I'm starting to get fade out. So I'm going to wrap up here. We still had over 50 people on listening. That's awesome. Guys, I put my email in the chat. Hopefully you guys enjoyed or one other question we got, sorry. Thoughts on partnering in terms of tax benefits? Yes, just your ownership percentage is what you're going to get, the percentage of the tax benefits. So keep that in mind when you partner. So if you guys have questions, feel free to shoot me an email. Once again, if you want to chat here, just strinsights.com/Kenny. I would love to talk to you guys. Feel free to schedule that call. And I can help you also find a property too, but let me know if you have any questions. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I'll probably try to shoot you another workshop in another month or so. Thanks everybody for joining this, and I'll see you next time. So bye everybody.